So today I'm going to show you a wee cheat. Back in the day when they used to tie dry flies, they would take a hackle stock and they would strip the hackle off the stock and use that as a body, and that would give a segmented effect. But I'm going to show you a wee cheat today that I use quite often on some of my general purpose dry flies. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take some of this cheap sewing silk. This is the stuff that you would find in kits and pound stretchers, B&M's, these types of shops, and they come in wee spools like that, and there's some interesting colours. So I'm going to use that. I'm going to use some liberal amounts of cobbler's wax. I've got some CDC feathers. These are chevron hackles. I like these ones, they're good quality. And I'm going to use Danville's Flymaster 6, this is a kind of olivey brown thread here. Just going to use it for a general purpose thread. And for the tail I'm going to use artist brushes. These are kind of brown colour and they've got darker tips, and you can buy different coloured ones. I think they're about a couple of quid each, and there's enough bristles on there to last a lifetime, I would imagine. So what we do is we start off by laying a bed of silk. We start at the eye in the usual manner, and we lock that thread in and we run that thread back to the point opposite the point of the hook there. Just break away the waste piece, take it back up, and you're going to go up roughly just short of 2/3 of the hook, shank length maybe 3/4. You're going to take your CDC and you're going to put them into a wee bunch. You're going to create the wing. You want the wing to be roughly the length of the body, so I'm just going to do that now, and we'll just get that, put a wee half pinching loop in there, lock it in with a couple of turns, take your fine point scissors and trim at an angle. All fairly basic stuff. What you can now do is you can now take your thread and put a couple of turns in front of the CDC just to cock it. Then take your thread all the way down to the tail and cut away any stray fibres that you might see in there. Take it all the way down to the bend of the hook where the tail is likely to start, about there. Take a number of fibres from the paintbrush, 3 or 4 maybe, something like that, and you want the tail to be roughly the length of the body, so just do a quick measure on that, pick it up, and then you want to whip in that tail there, and you can, if you like, put a turn underneath and then just tie that in. You can take the silk all the way back up to about there, come in with your fine point scissors and trim away the excess. Go all the way back down to there. Perfect. Now take your cheap sewing thread, and you can either leave it on the spool or you can take off, I don't know, maybe 6-8 inches, something like that. Cut it with your scissors. Take your cobbler's wax, and what you want to do is you want to run the thread through the cobbler's wax about, I don't know, maybe at least 8 or 9 times. Give it another couple just for good measure. Take that silk or that thread and tie it in at the side there, and then run your thread in touching turns all the way back up to the point of the fly, just about where you're going to tie in the hackle, probably about there. Now take your thread, your cheap thread, and run it up the hook in close touching turns. And what you'll see is, because you've put liberal amounts of cobbler's wax on there, you'll see a wee dark leading edge on the silk or on the thread, and that gives it that segmented effect. Really effective and it's really neat. Make sure you get nice neat touching turns. And there's also the added bonus that you've already put some ready-made floating on your fly. Take it up to the point where you're going to tie in the hackle, just to about there. Tie that in, lock it in with a couple of turns, 1, 2 turns. Take your fine points and trim away there. Now take your hackle, and in this case it's a Cree hackle. Strip away the base flue, again all fairly fundamental stuff. Strip away the base flue. Tie it in at the back of the CDC with a couple of turns. Take your silk forward of the CDC and then lock in that stock to the point where you're going to form the eye. Take your fine point scissors and trim. Now if you use hackle pliers, you can use hackle pliers at this point. Sometimes I don't bother. And what you want to do is get a couple of turns of the Cree hackle behind the CDC. Then shift it forward and tie it in front of the CDC. And you're looking for maybe 3 turns at the back of the CDC and maybe 3 turns at the front. Lock that in, a couple of turns. Take your fine point scissors, trim, take your thumb and forefinger and just rake everything back there and form a nice neat head just in front of the hackle there. Now you take maybe a 4 or a 5 turn whip finish, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and that is the finished fly. And at this point you just trim away using the scissors. And any fibres that get stuck down onto the body, you just take them away with the pointer scissors. And there you go. 2 things about this fly. It's a very effective fly, and it cocks very well when it's in the water. And normally what I do is I put a wee bit of floating just under the tail and do a wee kind of middle parting on the hackle, put some floating on there. Never put floating on the CDC, that's just my individual preference. And you've already got a ready-made floating on the actual body itself. So go away and give that a go and let me know how you get on.